Okay, Yuri, in this particular part of the process, we are going to attempt to make the internal frame, which consists of 4 mitre joints, which are then 45° each. Okay, now if it's done well, they should fit absolutely perfect with no gaps whatsoever. If we do find that there are gaps, then it's probably best that you restart to minimize those errors. Okay, so the first thing you'll definitely need a tenon saw, you need a sharp pencil, you need your bench hook, your tri-square, a mitre square, a steel rule, and your 10x10 batten, which I think is about 800mm in length. Okay, so you'll need all of those things to begin this process. You will only begin this process when your frame is being glued. Okay, so whilst it's being glued and solidifying, you can then move on to this step. Okay, so when you've got that in front of you, the first thing you'll need to do is measure those inside edges. So the first one I'm going to do, I'll measure this inside edge here, which is, when you place the steel rule just inside, this is coming up as 152. Okay, so it's 152 on the shorter edges, and it's 222. So 152 and 22. 222, 152. Okay, so with your wooden batten, your 10x10, with your steel rule and your sharp pencil, firstly, mark that 152 as accurately as you can. So it was 150, 1, 2, and put a mark there. I'm going to cut a millimetre or two a little bit further. Okay, so with your tenon saw, place your batten up into your bench hook on the second mark that we've done. Place your tenon saw up against the edge of your bench hook. Start with your 3 scores, keeping your blade vertically and then using the full length of the blade, nice and lightly, to cut that first piece. Okay, now the next part of the process is to use your mitre square. Now this one, you'll notice, is very similar to a tri-square. The tri-square is 90 degrees, your mitre square is 45 degrees. So you can place your batten up against this edge on the inside. You will then push it just over the top. So that you can see this second edge just touches the edge of the mitre square. Turn that over, holding it tight up against the wood, and then you can mark that 45-degree line. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's the area that I'm going to move. The next bit is really important. Do not slide it across. What you'll need to do is flip it over the other way, and you'll be able to just see, get it right into the corner, and do the same again. Okay, so what you should have, these lines should be meeting each other. They should be going towards one another. What we don't want to see is something like this, for example. So if we that's a no-no, so just double check that before you move on to the next stage. Okay, so once you've marked those out, 45 degrees with the mitre square, we can then move on to the sander, okay, or the band facer. So then we can move on to the band facer, and we'll do that right now. Okay, so as always, make sure that you've got your apron on, make sure you've got your goggles on, and just make sure that there's nobody in and around whilst you're using the machine. Firstly, just set the depth of the safety guard. Normally, I always like to say 2 fingers is a good amount, but the closer you can get it to the wood, still being able to see your markings, that's obviously going to prevent any sort of damage or any potential injuries. So this one's pretty straightforward and pretty quick. Okay, so I'm going to turn the machine on. holding your wood flat on the workbed, starting on one side, and you want this line to be parallel with the belt. Okay, so you have a nice sharp edge on the top. Do the same on the other side. Make sure this line is parallel. Okay, so there's your first piece. That's one of 4 that you'll have to do. The next thing is just to test and make sure that it's a really good fit for going into that first inner edge. Now what we want it to be really tight. So at the moment, it doesn't just ease in, but I think with such a sharp point, we can squeeze that in by pushing down, and it should, if you've done a really good job, it should be tight enough to hold itself up without any glue, okay? And there's the first one done. I'm gonna go away now and make the second joint and show you hopefully how that fixes together too. Okay, so if you're as talented as I am, then it should, after your second piece, it should just fit in like so, without any glue, nice and tight. And you can see, hopefully, we've got one shorter batten, we've got a second slightly longer one. We just need to make 1, 2 more, and that is us done. Okay, so that's the next part of the process. I hope you enjoy the process and using those new tools. Accuracy is absolutely key for this. So 45 degrees, make sure that's absolutely spot on. And if anything, make sure your battens are slightly longer than they need to be. Then you can always sand it back down. Okay, very best of your luck, and we'll see you.